This is TWiT.
This episode of Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. ACI Learning's courses are easy to navigate, and their structure is much more straightforward than traditional training programs. Try it for yourself, and then bring the whole team along. For individuals, use the code TWIT30 for 30% off a standard or premium individual IT Pro membership at go.acilearning.com/twit. Google is in the news.
Uh-oh. It's never a good thing, it seems.
Why would we talk about that on this show?
Again?
The judge has thrown out, I would say, the majority part of the complaint against Google that the state attorneys general put together. Last Friday, Judge Ant P. Mehta of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia dismissed 4 claims in the lawsuit and allowed the government lawyers to move forward with 3. The 4 claims he threw out were the claims that Google favored its own sites with its search results. He said,
well, good.
In fact, he said,
it's business.
He said, that's stupid. Well, I'm paraphrasing. But they are going to get to go ahead. He said, okay, so Judge Mehta wrote, the trial was warranted to assess whether Google's exclusivity deals for web browsers and preloading its services on Android devices illegally helped the internet company to maintain a monopoly. You know, we've talked about it. They pay Apple about $15 billion a year to be the default search on iPhone. Mm-hmm. They make deals with everybody who puts, like Samsung, who puts Android on their device to make sure that Google is the default search. In fact, I think it's part of the Open Handset Alliance's deal. If you want the Google services, you've got to do that. But regarding the search, he said government had not demonstrated the requisite anti-competitive effect, end quote, to prove that Google broke the law in other ways, such as by boosting its own products and search results over those of specialized sites with Amazon and Yelp. Yelp was one of the chief complainers. Yelp lost.
Yelp has been whining for years.
Yeah. So this will be the first major tech monopoly trial since Microsoft in the 90s, according to the New York Times, and they ought to know, amid a renewed backlash over the power of the tech giants. FTC, as well as the state's attorney general, going after Google. But Google, I think you can categorize this as a victory, initial victory in this battle.
So what are the 3 charges that go ahead then? I'm confused.
The charge that they are it's anti-competitive for them to require companies to use Google search on their Android devices. Boosting its let's see. The trial was warranted to assess whether Google's exclusivity deals for web browsers and preloading services on Android devices. So, for instance, if
it's hilarious, we're back to the Microsoft case. It's web browsers again.
No. It's more than that. Why
wouldn't we go after? Okay, keep going.
So
Sorry.
Google has, as you know, Android is open source. So anybody, I can make Leo's phone, put Android on it. But what would be missing is the Google Play Store and Google services, underlying services that many apps use and require. Things like the Firebase, notification manager, things like that. So if I want to make you a fully functioning Android phone, I've got to make a deal with Google. And you remember Google's gotten in trouble with these deals in other ways. For instance, they used to say, well, you can't do a non-Google phone and a Google phone because that confused people. So if you're going to sign a deal with us, all your phones have to be Google services phones. I don't think Google charges you money, but they have certain requirements. Like you have to have Chrome on there. You have to have Google Messages on there. You probably, I'm guessing, I'll have to look, you have to use Google Search as the default search, things like that. And that's what the trial we'll find out when the trial. But the big one, which was, I think, the one that Yelp, and remember they had this problem in Europe where the EU said, Google Shopping, these poor other shopping sites, they can't compete. And they did fine Google, I think, a lot of money, but not in the U.S., and I think that's the right answer. So that trial begins
I think so too.
September 12th. The Times says it stands out as the most direct government attempt in years to confront one of the world's biggest tech companies about long-time business practices. The trial is expected to last almost 10 weeks and to scrutinize not only how Google conducts its business, but its relationships with other major companies such as Apple
Where is it going to be held?
Samsung. It's in the Bay Area, I think. It's in the... No, I'm sorry. It's D.C.
DC, right?
It is the D.C. Circuit Court. So it'll be in D.C. That's a busy venue. It's going to be a little crowded in there in that venue.
Would you rather be on the Trump jury or the Google jury?
Yeah. Bill Baer, a former Justice Department antitrust official quoted in the Times, said the cases were as significant as the landmark litigation against Microsoft.
Which was ridiculous.
I think of victory, at least a 50% victory for Google already in this one.
Yeah.
This was filed in 2020. So
the folks like OnePlus, they don't have to rely on Google services. I thought they
don't have to, but they do, because you can't sell in the U.S. anyway. You can't sell an Android phone that doesn't have the Play Store.
I'm thinking
so there are a lot of
Huawei's and all of them that don't really
in
sell
China.
over
They
here.
don't,
yeah,
because Google doesn't do
right.
business in China.
That's right.
So Huawei has to provide its own, Play Store and all that stuff.
And they seem to be doing just fine over there.
I think if you bought an Android phone,
if you're buying a Google phone, you want the Google services. I think it's an appropriate thing to require.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's right to say Google phone versus an Android phone.
Yeah, it's
I
not
think
a
that's
Google
the key.
phone. Yes, exactly right.
Okay.
He misspoke.
Fine.
I would like to apologize for my client, Your Honor. He misspoke.